It surprises me that at this point, some people are still saying that we should give Tinubu time, that he built Lagos, he will do it again in Nigeria. When are we going to stop joking in this country called Nigeria? Like, why can't we just get serious? Is it not the World Bank that told us that this Shegebanza that we are seeing today is going to last for 10 to 15 years? But Tinubu has only 4 years to rule Nigeria. So when is Tinubu going to start working, my people? Is it when his tenure is over? In this particular interview, Professor Udenta really said a lot of things and give woto to Tinubu as well. I didn't even know that 4 ministers came from Ogun State. While in the Southeast, we have only 5 ministers, entire Southeast. This is definitely not how government works. Look at where we are today. Companies, businesses are closing down. Is it when everything goes down, that is when Tinubu is going to start working? For those that are saying that we should give Tinubu more time, let me allow you guys to listen and hear what Professor Udenta said in this particular video.
How are you holding up? Good. Well, what can we do? We just have to keep our heads up. The moment our head drops down, the heart drops down, the soul is lost.
When all the indices, when I was speaking with the spokesperson of the president, and all the indices of the economy are in the red, it shows something that we are headed into a dangerous, except there is a drastic and dramatic movement in the right direction. But in your own view, do you think we are moving in the right direction anyways?
The first thing I need to put out there robustly, with very deep passion, is to push back on what Bayo Onanuga, the spokesperson or the man of the president, said about with regard to the Guardian. We're in a studio. This is the fourth estate of the realm. The guardrails of protecting democracy begins somehow and begins here and ends here. Civic spaces, the political parties, labor unions, and so on anchor their vision of certain democratic practice in the media. The moment you topple that estate, the moment that guardrail is lost, democracy begins to decompose. The Guardian, I read the piece. Misery, harsh policies, driving Nigeria to desperate choices. It's not a call to arms for coup d'etat. It's a lamentation, a deeply felt lamentation about the state of the nation. Indeed, it's actually the government that is backsliding democracy in Nigeria. It's a threat to democracy because this government is legal, but the government may not be legitimate. People don't seem to understand the distinction. We fetishize constitutional frameworks and constitutional provision to say elections were held, results were declared, the court ruled, the final court, the Supreme Court in favor. That makes it's a legal government produced by law. But it's not legitimate because if you do not, as you said, if everything is in the red and the people are hurting and angry and bitter and depressed and in sorrow, then you've lost the critical plank of legitimacy, the well-being of the people. If the society is racked by criminalities and violence and courtism and abductions and kidnappings and terrorism and banditry, you've lost the second plank, which is provision of security. So when you lose the security of the nation and the provision of the welfare of the people, you've lost legitimacy even when you are legal. So Guardian simply projected the sense of angst, the sense of ennui, the sense of desperation of the people of this country to say, they are hurting. And if care is not taken, they may look for self-help or make wrong choices or make wrong calls. It's a wake-up call, it's a call to arm. It doesn't require a robust rebuttal from the government. It is actually trying to kill an ant with a sledgehammer by threatening the media to abandon its positive moral force in society.
So it doesn't look at the presidency is sensitive to the pains of the Nigerian people.
It shows gross insensitivity. Not only gross insensitivity, it is more than gross insensitivity. It's a put down on the media. The moment the media is frightened, the Guardian editorial board will begin to now look at every piece of news and story to say, no, they will not be happy with this. The president has actually put us down on this one. Let us not go through this area. The Guardian are calling upon Guardian to remain stout-hearted, to remain vigilant in protecting democracy.
Although the part of asking for a military takeover,
they didn't ask.
Or the military on the sideline waiting to take over might be far too far for those who had fought hard for our democracy. Every tendency
even Bayo's own statement grudgingly conceded that Guardian balance is to say, we don't like military takeover, we don't like coup d'etat, democracy is the best. But what What is going on in the country is frightening. So that means wake up, smell the coffee, do what is right for the people, and there won't be any conversation about military taking over.
Well, I mean, if the government is saying, look, it's going to be patient, we're working, we're trying to recover. Do you see that recovery really happening? If the indices are saying recovery is happening, if the GDP or the economy is seeing some growth in the last two quarters, but in the lives of the question would be, is it trickling down?
When you pressed him, I watched intently. Apart from foodstuff, staple food items, what are the areas do you find these positive signs of recovery? Dr. Raymond Kuti, the president of Guide of Medical Editors, they said, the medical directors, 50% of private clinics and hospitals have shut down. But check me later on this. Have shut down because they do not have patients anymore and they cannot maintain the running costs of things. If 50% of private clinics and hospitals have shut down because they can no longer provide services, they can no longer buy, bandages, adhesive tapes, syringes, other stock, medical stock and so on, laboratory equipment, laboratory materials. 2, independent marketers are out there screaming loudly that 10,000 retail outlets on the verge of collapse because of lack of patronage. The last time around, only 4 million liters of fuel were consumed in a month. Last year, same time, 16 million. Nigerians don't drink fuel. They don't cook with it. People have parked their vehicles at home. People sleep at night without any fuel because there's no light and there's no money to buy fuel. Small businesses have collapsed because they can't even buy fuel to power their garri grinding machine and so on. So if 10,000 outlets are going to shut down, from 60 million liters of fuel consumption per month to 4 million, that is a massive indicator you're looking at. You're not looking at any shambolic economic statistics that were 1% increase or 0.5% increase and so on and so forth. Look at drugs. I have comorbidities. That means I need to buy drugs every day to maintain my system. Some have moved from 2,000 to 30,000, 5,000 to 25,000 across board. People have abandoned those areas.
Can we give the government a chance for a moment when the government says, look, and there are those who said before the election, whoever becomes the president or whichever political party gets into office is going to find it difficult to run this country because things were already as terrible as they were. For a moment, can we give this government a benefit of the doubt that somehow, when they say that we're going to experience an initial pain, and it's just over a year since they got into office, do you see the possibility that there are signs that this government is moving in the right path, and that light at the end of the tunnel is in sight?
Let me shock you by something I've reflected upon when you placed the call and made a call. We should have this conversation. Sure, it is troubling to say the least. The bigger question of legitimacy lies with the composition of the governance infrastructure. Are you aware that 4 ministers represent Ogun State and 5 ministers represent the SouthEast zone? Almost a third of the country's population have 5 ministers, and 1 state of the federation has 4 ministers. Sure, are you aware that legitimacy is inclusive democracy and inclusive government, without which this question you raised can never be answered on the positive? I have restrained myself on this matter, but it's no longer time to achieve that sense of restraint. 4 key dimensions or spheres of governance. Criminal justice system, headed by the president, has under him the IGP, under him the Attorney General, has under him the DSS, has under him the chairman EFCC, all from one geopolitical basket of this country. Not because there's a consensus of elements within that basket, but a narrow, insular, almost primitive, chauvinistic manipulation of power to capture the criminal justice system. 2, the infrastructure of economic governance. Outside of the president, the minister, coordinating minister for the economy and finance minister, the CBN governor, the digital economy minister, the blue economy minister, the FIRS, the customs, the immigration. The list goes on. Under one geopolitical offices of state, the army, there, immigration, customs. We mentioned the police earlier, in one geopolitical zone. Inside the villa, which should be testament to the inclusive nature of a democracy.
Buhari government was blamed for that.
This is beyond even what Buhari attempted to do.
So this is
shocking. And this is when you talk about how can you improve the economy, how can you galvanize the people to buy into your project of governance when they feel completely alienated. Inside the villa, you have the chief of staff, you have Bayo Onanuga himself, you have now brought in Solidarity, you have the chief of protocol, you have the brigade commander of the brigade of guards, you have the ADC, all from one basket. It's a wake-up call not just for the nation, but for Yoruba people, a proud, glorious, progressive people I worked with. When we went for June 12th struggle, in those dark days of Eastern Bandit Union and Nadeko fighting the military, we from the East said, if the Yoruba who fought with the North against the East could not secure the presidency, Abiola, a Muslim and a friend of the military, we will never see it. We were prepared to die to get him that job. By 98, Sheung, Olusegun Obasanjo of Yoruba extraction was brought up from jail by non-Yoruba people. Olufalaye became candidate of AD because of one young of blessed memory who screamed aloud, where is the justice at Eagle Square? Was abandoned after winning a ticket. And I told him, calm down for the sake of our democracy. 3 parties fielded 2 candidates, Olusegun Obasanjo and Olufalaye. It has never happened in our history to placate and pacify that. The latest Chukwemeke Zife, who have beaten Falaye at AD final convention with 70% of the vote, I asked Chukwemeke Zife to raise his hand for the sake of equity and inclusion. That I have Ogun State producing 4 ministers, and the entire SouthEast 5 ministers. How do you expect them to buy into a vision of governance? How do you expect them to answer the question you're posing to me? Because when, as you put it to Bayo, you do shege to people, they have the way of doing shege to you. Right. So it is important we, as patriots who love this country, who believe in inclusion, even the president himself, his journey to the governorship in 1999 was paved by compassion and benevolence.
Prof,
and today we find the difficulty of this government to balance its vision in a progressive, inclusive manner that everybody in this country will feel we have something at stake. We're implicated in his mode of governance. That means if the economy is sliding, we'll fight for it.
From what we established tonight, we are in some kind of a dire situation, a quagmire. How do we navigate from here? What should we be doing right now? If you were the president, what would you do?
You asked that question to, his spokesperson, to spokesman Bayo. We thought this transformation will go far, the restructuring, the reformation of the apparatus of governance. Maybe half of the cabinet sacked, deposited. We don't know some of them. We don't know what they're doing. Maybe this kind of conversation will be a wake-up call, but far more vigorous retooling of the entire infrastructure of governance is required if it is possible. You saw the...
You have once suggested a roundtable.
I did that. You saw the
patriots of eminent Nigerians.
You saw the cordiality we exchanged before he stepped out. That means we are patriots. We don't hate the country. We don't hate the system. We don't dislike the president. But we see that things on dire street, we're not in a dire street situation. The first you do is allow democracy to breathe. It doesn't look as if it has to do with the economy, but it ties up to the economy. I said it can't overcome the political state. It cannot ignore the political class. You need this kind of large conversation, a summit of leaders of this country. You have to allow Labour to breathe. You agree with me that since the Labour president has been, from pillar to post, Labour seems to have scaled down his voice. Allow civic space to breathe through. And most crucial, allow the parties to breathe. Multi-party democracy, the foundation of true democracy. That is why the chairman of the PDP Governors Forum, the governor of Bauchi, Bala Mohammed, issued a statement, had an interview with Daily Trust. It's a must read for people to say, we have to fight with our NATO to rescue the party, because if we don't rescue the PDP as the standard bearer of opposition politics, democracy will be lost in 2027. That means we must make sure that the Wesleyans in the system, those who want to put the party down and turn the country into a one-party state, fail. Because the moment you lose multi-party democratic conversation or dialogue or contestation of ideas and visions of governance, the moment labor is crippled and civil space is dissolved, or you find again that the media is frightened, there's no amount of retooling or restructuring of the practice of governance that will save the day. That is high thinking, critical thinking. I can stay here and say at the level of, my new day-to-day policy formulations, do this, do that. Look at the forest system. This is the way we can retool it. Look at the regime of a slave subsidy removal and price increase. Bring it down. All those things are nice things to say. But broad fundamentals.
Yeah. So we seek and salvage the situation.
We can't if these things are done. But if they're not done,
Prof,
the country is in a very, very bad shape.
There are those who will say maybe the Southeast voted in the way they voted, and that's what they're getting. Why they didn't? Political participation is, or political involvement is
maybe 2027. Almost 30% of this population of the country is Southeast, scattered all over the country. Not only the Southeast, they have their voters card to wave around. This time maybe with much more concerted energy, coherence, and direct intentionality to say, this is what we're going to do in a heavier form. If you do shake it to us today, 2027, we'll do shake it back to you.
So you think maybe this is a backlash of the fact that maybe the Southeast did not vote this party?
Well, I'm not in the mind of the president and his team to fathom out why a state. We have 4 ministers.
But can you,
an entire zone, 5 ministers.
Can you politically fight for what you did not give?
Let me tell you how you do. What you do. What you do is that you find out why you didn't get the vote. You lure them. You persuade them. You actually get them more. To say, next time around...
But appointment of a Bianca Ojukwu, what does it mean?
Oh, she's eminently qualified and she had to do her job as a minister in Abuja here.
That of an icon.
That is different from the conversation in the Southeast. She is here qualified, immediately qualified to do her job. The moment that job is transported back home in the East will determine the fate of that government she's serving.
Welcome to Chamrasi News TV.